Welcome back to the Tuxes Tomahawks podcast. I'm Adam DeRito. I am finally back from Washington, D.C., and you guys have heard me bitching about that entire experience since I've been back for the past few days. Today, I have the absolute honor of interviewing Colonel George Washington Markert, who's running for Senate here, United States Marine Corps in the state of Colorado. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Appreciate it.
So, when did you go to OCS? When did you go to Brown Field back in the day?
Oh, geez, this was a long time ago. So 1993 is when I went to OCS.
93. All right, man. I went in 2009, so a little bit time after you. But it's
Yeah,
always good to have a fellow Marine on the podcast, because if we know anything, it's hard leadership when things get hard with the least amount of things and funding as possible. So
yeah, absolutely.
if you can't make it work with duct tape, it's probably broken, and we have to give it to the Army anyway,
Yeah.
which is where I ended up. So tell me about your time in service. Like how did you start your life in public service and everything else? And I always find that a fascinating background because not a lot of people know who you are, and I want to make sure everyone knows where you grew your roots. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, I was in a Navy family growing up. Long line of naval officers. My grandfather was a World War II pilot in the Navy. Actually, was an enlisted pilot. Kind of interesting, background there.
mhm.
And then, he retired in like 1960. A few years later, my dad joined the Navy. He served for 28 years, Vietnam veteran. And, so I grew up in that atmosphere. And,
Yeah.
and I was, we landed in Virginia when I was in high school. And my dad was doing a tour with SEAL Team 6, as a matter of fact. And I started getting exposed to, a lot of different things. And I ended up going to Virginia Tech for my undergrad. And they had a pretty strong ROTC program and other, Marine Corps officer programs. And so I took a look around, and I decided at the end of my time there to pursue a Marine Corps commission. So I got commissioned in 1993 after OCS. And then, embarked on my 30-year journey. I became a logistics officer. I got to serve, all over the Marine Corps at all levels. I did a couple tours in the infantry. I served in every high-level staff, Pentagon, U.S. Central Command, as well as served out in the Pacific with Marine Forces Pacific. And I got the command at every level, which was an honor and a privilege. I really enjoyed my command time, particularly, Lieutenant Colonel. Really got a chance to make a difference in the lives of multiple generations of Marines and sailors. And then I ended up closing out my time in uniform. I did 3 straight chief of staff jobs at the major subordinate command levels, whereas I did one gig as a chief of staff at a combatant command for a logistics directorate. And so, I started out leading a platoon of 35 Marines in Cuba. That was my very first assignment, and went all the way to 8,000 Marines as a colonel, and got to really see how the whole national security enterprise worked. I spent the preponderance of my time deployed, besides just the standard Iraq, Afghanistan, and that kind of thing, with Marine Expeditionary Units. So a lot of time on ship, a lot of time with the Navy, sailing around the world, preparing for and then responding to crises. The biggest thing for us that we ever did was the USS Cole. In 2000, we were the unit that responded to that, and basically went in and secured the area so the crew could get the ship out of there, and then we took the crew out and got them back home to the United States. And so a lot of very, very formative experiences for me, depending on where I was: Middle East, Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, Africa. Really, got a chance to see it all. I pursued a lot of opportunities. I was always volunteering to go see and do things. I just wanted to contribute and serve, but at the same time, I wanted to be as skilled as I possibly could. And so I retired a couple of years ago. I got a job in the private sector here in Colorado. I'd been all over the place throughout my life, and I had fallen in love with Colorado. I thought, what a beautiful state.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much to do. I'm very active. I like to hike. I'm a Ironman triathlete. Just the outdoors is a big thing for me. And so that led me here. And then after a while, I started really taking a look around, and a couple things really popped up. Number one, my time in the private sector was good. I learned a lot. I enjoyed working for that company, but at the same time, I still felt this call to serve. It was weird. After 30 years, I thought, okay, have I done enough? Have I done done enough for this country and its people? The answer was no. I really still felt like I needed to get out there and serve my country. And so I had been studying, politics and national security affairs and all these things for probably the last 10 years of my career. We get sent to various war colleges. We earn master's degrees, and we were given front row seat for what happens in the political space and how it's tied to economics, diplomacy, information, and all these other things. And so I kept thinking like, wow, I really want to put this education and experience to better use. How could I do that? How could I serve? And continue to lead. I want to. All the leadership experience I got over 30 years was substantial. I really wanted to put that into practice as well. And so what I ended up doing was, looking at opportunities to run for office. And lo and behold, here in Colorado, I started, talking to people, and nobody was happy with the direction the state was going. No one was happy with the elected officials here. And I thought, here's an opportunity for me to step up and be a part of the solution. I'm not the kind of person to sit around and complain and say, oh, things should be this way and that way, whatever. I want to be the one who actually gets it done. And so I thought, what better way to serve? And in particular, move to a higher level and continue to work hard and do the things that always brought me fulfillment and joy throughout the course of my life. That's what led me to this point.
No, I got, just listening to your story, like I have to give it a lot to you because one, you're a Marine and I know your mentality and how you do things. And like one thing is the reason why we're the best fighting force in the world is logistics. It's such a complex thing and how to integrate things and how to get material and personnel overseas and everything. You've already had that programming and that training extensively. And that was all the way even before the global war on terror started with the USS Cole and then moving in that. So one thing I fail to hear from a lot of politicians that I interview and a lot of people that I talk to is that they're, I want to do this for myself because I think I can do this and I, and me. What I never hear say is that it's a call to service, an actual service, not just being a mouthpiece and saying, well, I'm here to represent the United States of America. Yeah, I don't care, man. I really don't. And one thing that resonates with me is one, you could do 20 push-ups, so I think should be a requirement for anyone running for office. I think all these out of shape people and the geriatrics need to leave. I think they've been destroying our political system, the people that sent us to war for 20 years, so to speak. But you're a new, younger, fresh face. You already have been involved in global politics, logistics, and national security. You've already been basically doing the job that you're applying for on a more existential, level and at the risk of your own life and leading thousands of other Marines. And I think that's really commendable because I look at all the resumes from all the politicians I work with in D.C. Like I've been working in D.C. for the last 15 years and just trying to get moral and ethical people into office. And then I recently started to get involved in local politics here in Colorado like 2 years ago because I'm like, how bad could it be? It can't be any worse than the Fed side. That was wrong. Trying to work with the GOP here was like an absolute disaster because they're so narrow focused on the things that do not matter, right? Yeah. They're always focused on the infighting and not doing the right fundraising or not networking correctly. You've already built a network. You've already had all these experiences that, the Republican Party is really looking for in that leadership. And like I said, I have dealt with Senator Bennett and Senator Hickenlooper for a long time. And I will tell you that I gave him the benefit of the doubt, even when he was the governor, right? And we got nothing done. And what we did is we lost thousands of jobs, especially in the energy sector. Our farmers and ranchers are really suffering. We're not getting solutions for our water supply. It's affecting commerce. We're losing Space Force now, which to be fair, I advocated for a little bit because I said, if we can't hold Colorado to its conservative values where we want to bring in more conservative military families into the state, and you guys are canceling $25 million paving contracts at the local refinery, you can't fix the roads, you can't expand the airport, you don't have any money to pay for anything, you're in a $1 billion deficit, then why would I want to put another 150,000 military personnel to experience that, right? So it sounds like you have a lot of solutions and you have a lot of ideas of how to make Colorado like the new invigorated, industrial infrastructure commerce center of the United States, because we are. I mean, they're expanding DIA by 200% within the next 8 years, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have to expand Colorado Springs airport eventually to bring in more military personnel. There's a lot going on here, but unfortunately what I see is there's a lot of politicians that like to talk and they like to win votes and they like to collect your money. But I have yet to see anyone provide any real solutions for real working Coloradans here. And it sounds like you have a plan to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're exactly right. I mean, all the experience and the planning and all the things I had to do over the course of 30 years on a global scale. When you talk about infrastructure, when you talk about, terminal operations, ports, airfields, you name it. And then all the things that go into, I mean, even like in Afghanistan, I actually was building bases. I was building active runways. I was working with, engineers and architects and construction personnel. And that was actually, some of the work I did in the private sector here was geohazard mitigation. So, all these failing slopes and bridges and highways, going in there and stabilizing those, shoring them up so that our infrastructure and commerce continues to flow. And, so the economy continues to thrive. Without that, the nation grinds to a halt without your ability to move, resupply, maintain. And that was the mission I was handed, 30 years ago and did all those years. And so at the same time, my educational background, I've got, 4 master's degrees. So 2 of them are in national security affairs and 2 of them are in business and executive leadership. And so, learning how to become a systems thinker, learning how to execute a vision and strategy, learning how to set priorities and allocate resources based on those priorities, and then make sure that you can make the hard decisions if your resources are limited. Which obviously, if you go to any county in this state, and I go to the meetings and I listen to the briefs, I listen to them talk about, okay, we've got this much debt, we've got this much money in the coffers, and this much in terms of infrastructure projects in the queue, and nothing matches up, right? And then what happens is, because most of these places are run by Democrats or elected locally, they will elect to not run for office and just leave and not be held accountable. And so then you got people saddled with, millions and millions of dollars worth of debt and projects that have been strung out over a decade and never got executed. And so, being able to plan and then make the hard decisions based on setting priorities, which I think a lot of people are very weak on.
Yes.
And then making sure that, hey, look, what's the vision? What's the vision for Colorado? Where do you want to go? You mentioned energy. That's something that the Hickenlooper is very weak on. We have failed to unleash the energy potential of this state. And then of course the stuff that I get asked at the local level a lot, public lands, water rights, things like that, things that are near and dear to anybody who lives in the Western U.S.
Huge issue in Colorado.
Western U.S. Anybody who lives in the Western U.S. That's a big deal. But and then of course you bump that up to the national level. What kinds of things we're concerned about there? We want a strong national defense. We want good foreign policy. We want a good, strong military, and we want long-term economic stabilization. Yes. And so, we want to be able to address inflation and national debt. We want to be able to address interest rates. We want to be able to address all those things so that the economy continues to grow. And then all the people here in Colorado are contributing to that gross national product. And so, all these different things are things I think about all the time, things that I've studied and then been a part of as an instrument of national policy for many, many years out there, like executing on the ground, seeing it with my own 2 eyes, seeing people suffer in foreign countries, seeing people suffer here at home. I mean, when I got here and I started going to all these major cities, and you see the homeless people, you see the drugs, you see the, just the crime you see. And then you talk to the business people who are like, look, I'm leaving the state. I'm moving away. I'm taking my business with me. Because this whole place is falling apart. And so you're like, well, this is the result of probably 2 decades of bad policy and people who just don't necessarily understand how to plan and execute properly and set priorities. And I think that's something I could bring to the table.
You know what? And I got to give it to you as being a Marine, you are very knowledgeable and you are very logical thinking in this process of how to do this. Like, I have yet to hear anyone running for office break things down as simply as you have. Like, it comes from a logistics perspective. We need to go after our energy. We need to fix our infrastructure. And by doing all those things, people will succeed. And I think you'll agree with me, like from our time overseas in CENTCOM, the 3 easiest ways to create a civil war, because I went from special operations, special forces in the Army, in the Guard out here at 19th Group, and then I switched over to civil affairs when I came back. And The greatest way to do that is take away their water, their food, and their electricity, right? And Colorado, it's not that if you take
Yeah.
away one of those three of the stool, you will collapse the society.
Yeah.
And here,
Yeah.
we like to limit our water resources because we're not thinking common sense about it. And that's what I do a lot of water stuff out here, especially at the refinery. Another thing too is that we are killing our power structure. We had the fourth largest oil producing county in the United States. We were basically Midland, Texas out here in Weld County. And what did they do? They shut down production, sent all those companies home. We lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, we're not preparing for our power grid, right? I think SMRs, small modular reactors, are great for like the mountain towns because you don't have to run pipelines up there, But in general, we have so much natural gas out here, you could power the state for thousands of years, right? And we're just throwing those opportunities away, and it's a clean solution, right? And we are sitting here stifling ourselves over, green energy policy, which there's ways to integrate those things. Like if you already have a house and you have a roof on it, put some solar panels on it. You can use it to like supplement your energy supply. I got it. But putting out hundreds of windmills out here on the border of Wyoming where I live, and then you got to run all these transmission lines and lose 37% of your capacity before it even hits the energy grid. It's a waste of time and energy, right? And then you can go to the wildlife and everything else. But the thing is that we are in over $1 billion of a deficit here in the state of Colorado. And we can almost be the Alaska of the West. We could literally drill our way out of this problem and even create a sovereign wealth fund. No one should be paying taxes in the state of Colorado because we could literally pay our citizens with the amount of oil and gas revenue here. Our agriculture, we're a major center for food security for the United States, and we're throwing those opportunities away because we have a big problem with illegal migration and human trafficking up here in Weld County off Highway 85. It's bad. I talked to a lot of the police officers and a lot of the sheriff's officers, and it's something we're ignoring. We used to go on ruck marches out there east of DIA, out where the unit is, and they'd be finding bodies out there from the cartels executing people out of the airports and getting robbed right out of DIA from rental cars, right? But
Right.
I don't see any politician talking about real solutions. I see a lot of big mouthpieces. I see a lot of, we supported the one big beautiful bill. That's a giant federal policy that is not affecting Colorado. It's not affecting Coloradans here locally. And it sounds like you are talking about the issues that the local people here really care about because they've been ignored for over 2 decades at this point.
Yeah. No, you make some great points. Actually, coincidentally, yesterday I was at Jefferson County Republican meeting. I spoke there yesterday. I'm going to speak again next Monday. And there was a guy there. He's involved in real estate, but he's like, "Hey, look, I'm with a group of people, and we were trying to stop child trafficking in the state." And he pulled me aside and he goes, "Look," he goes, "you got to understand just how horrific this is." He wants to team up with me, help use my platform, to get the message out and help stop this, and then and then I can help him as well by talking about this when I get interviewed and things like that. But and the other things you brought up, some of the you talk about using experience and history as a guide. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of good case studies, and they actually come out of Iraq and Afghanistan. You talked about essential services and not meeting basic needs, right? Well, right. In Iraq, when, after the invasion occurred, when you don't have trash removal, electricity, water, basic things like that, well, what happens? You have civil violence, unrest, and you create a vacuum. A vacuum gets exploited by some bad actors. And then Afghanistan, there was an interesting experience I had, because I kind of had a multi-phase deployment there, but I went in first as a part of a task force. And, we were doing counterinsurgency in various provinces around the country. And then a larger unit came in and kind of consumed us. We became part of them. We became a regimental combat team. Now we're back to the infantry mindset. And we sent battalions in to, essentially expel the Taliban from a couple of different districts. And there was one where they had this patrol base, and right outside the patrol base was a bazaar. And I patrolled that bazaar 3 times on foot. The very first time I went through, it was deserted. Literally like shutters hanging off by like blowing in the wind, hanging by a nail, stray dogs, garbage, all this kind of stuff. We brought security to that district and got the Taliban out.
Yeah.
Every time I went back, there were more businesses that were open. It's
amazing how that works.
Commerce and it was thriving. There was people coming back and starting different things and people came back to live. And that's all you need to do is provide these things. And to me, like government, doesn't need to get involved in all these different little things. They need to do the basic muscle movements well. And we've been struggling with that, particularly, 12 of the last 16 years under Obama and Biden, where, they're spending all this time in these little tiny issues that affect a small portion of the population. But if you don't get the economy right, if you don't get security right, you don't get prosperity right, well, then the market doesn't work. The people aren't happy and the people aren't safe, and so it's pretty simple. And, and people get distracted, or they spend too much time trying to placate a couple different people, right? I mean, do the things you're supposed to do and do them well. And it's amazing what will happen. And so I think we've just gone off the rails in a lot of ways. A lot of these politicians just don't even really think clearly about any of this. They spend so much time and resources sitting there trying to, impeach the president on something that was completely fabricated or whatever the deal is,
and
right?
placate social issues that nobody cares about. And look, I tell this to people all the time. Look, I understand there's a lot of people out here who love the whole abortion and guns argument, but you want to know what? One, guns is a constitutional right. Good luck. And two, I agree with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, right? It's a states' rights issue. It's not an enumerated right in the Constitution. And if the people in Colorado, the local legislature, if that's what they want, that's fine. I'm a Catholic. I'm obviously going to be against it. But I'm not going to take away your ability to vote in the legislators you want locally and dictate what you want to do with your life. But that's still not putting food on your table. That's not fixing the energy supply. That's not fixing the water issues. That's not fixing the fact that these wolves are just decimating our agricultural and cattle industries out here. And those are the issues that most Coloradans will care about, because I think one thing that you're talking about, and I just really appreciate this conversation, because it's so rare that I get to talk to intelligent people that want to run for office. It's hard, man. I'm telling you, it's really difficult. I even have to deal with some of my local representatives here, and it's I feel like I'm talking to an empty Reese's peanut butter cup wrapper sometimes. They look really good on the outside, they probably taste good, but at the end it's just garbage. And the thing is you are talking to the independent voters that don't want to be involved in politics anymore. Yeah. And people get so concerned with the MAGA extreme right, or whatever you want to call it. Look, I've been to Donald Trump's house 3 times. People want to call me mad. I don't care. But the thing is, I still need to placate to my community, right? I really care about the Hispanic people that I work with. 80% of the people, I work in the oil and gas industry here. That's my main job outside of the Army Reserve, right? 80% of the people I work with are Hispanic Americans. Right. And we talk about illegal immigration stuff all the time, and they have a real problem with it because it undercuts their wages. It undercuts what their families have been doing in Colorado for decades. Right. Commerce City is the industrial hub and heartbeat of the state of Colorado. And I have Democratic socialists like Manny Rutenau who want to shut down my job and eliminate $2.2 billion industry here in the state of Colorado, when we're the only jet fuel supplier and asphalt supplier in the entire state. But they want to talk about hurting people's feelings. What are we doing? I don't understand what's going on. You are talking about the issues that the independent voter who has taken themselves out of politics, right? Like I said, over 49% of the people in the state of Colorado do not care about the Democratic left or the Republican right. They just want to exist. They want to take care of their kids, their family. They want to go to work, take their kids to soccer practice, go to church, whatever it is. And you sound like a voice of reason that is finally speaking to, hey, forget about all the societal bullcrap issues that's a distraction to everything. I care about your job. I care about fixing the roads. I care about the environment out here, because if we collectively, from a logistical standpoint and from your approach, we can fix these things collectively. We can enrich our citizens here in Colorado monetarily, and we don't have to sit here and fight over the bitter stuff, because, it's like you said, as long as everybody has food, water, electricity, and money, everyone just kind of leaves each other alone. So why don't we focus on those issues?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the breakdown of voters in this state is interesting, because the matrix programming, that you hear that they've gone ahead and sold everybody on, is that this is deep blue, hopelessly lost of progressives. Don't even bother coming out to vote Republicans, because your vote doesn't count. Don't even bother. And it's such BS, right? Because it's actually 25% Democrat, 23% Republican.
Yep.
50% unaffiliated, right? Yes. So I talked to those folks, right?
And that's who you have to talk to.
And you're like, okay, so what is, and it's just like you said, number one, there's one term they all use, every single one of them. And by the way, most of them lean slightly conservative, which I also thought was interesting, but they're like common sense. We just want common sense. We're tired of all these fringe issues, these extreme issues going left and right, all this. just like you said, we want the basic necessities. And the Hispanic population is interesting as well, because you're spot on. The folks I talk to are like, hey, look, not only are you going to undercut our wages, but those of us that actually did this immigration thing the right way will be treated unfairly for folks that come cut in line in front of us that did it the illegal way. And look at the things that they hold dear, right? Their culture, their religion, their family. I mean, these are conservative values. These are things that, they just want to continue to experience here in the United States. And it's like, okay, well, how do we make sure that you can get a good job and support your family and do the things that make you happy? And, sitting there talking about these fringe social issues is not gonna cut it. Right. And so, like, especially when, you can't afford to buy a home, or you can't afford to feed your family because the grocery prices are sky high, and so, talking about things like inflation, government spending, talking about things like, how do we reduce the size of government and eliminate government waste? I mean, I think those revelations were quite striking. I mean, I was in DoD for 30 years. I dealt with a lot of
how
other,
bad it is.
I dealt with a lot of other 3-letter agencies too. I mean, like Department of State, and a lot of the other federal agencies. Yeah, exactly. Black side. And so, you kind of watch what people spend money on and what they do and that kind of thing. And I always tried to be the guy who was like, look, is this really necessary? I mean, we'll spend the money we need to, but is this necessary? Like, these are taxpayer dollars. You always remind people, these are taxpayer dollars. And by the way, we pay taxes, right? I mean, we serve, but we pay taxes. We don't want to throw our own money away. Let's do right by these people. And that was always our attitude. And so then you find out that, billions were wasted on things that yielded nothing, no results, no tangible results whatsoever. And you're like, okay, what else is out there, right? What have we not discovered yet that we need to dig into, so that, you bring down the debt, and then you essentially have these lean government agencies that are working hard for you, because one thing that always struck me was, when I did my Pentagon tour, a lot of times at lunch, I would go down and take a run on the National Mall, right? It's amazing anywhere you go, if you just go for a run and you observe what you can learn. And so I used to go running down through all these agencies, right? The Department of Commerce, the Department of Labor, the Department of Transportation. You see all their buildings. And I'd look in the windows. There's these massive buildings with all these people sitting in there, just staring at a computer, staring at a wall. I'm like, what are these people doing here? I in my life see no real benefit from their existence, but they're consuming tons of money, right? So I'm thought, okay, there's got to be a better way. And so, downsizing this, and I know it's an emotional issue for a lot of people, particularly folks that are or know, or close to, government employees and that kind of thing. But I mean, the people that are in power now didn't create this situation, right? No, they didn't. This grew over many, many years, and something has to be done. Something has to be done. And so I think making those cuts and reducing, the amount of taxpayer dollars we take from citizens, lowering interest rates, lowering the debt, and then, addressing inflation, you'll see a real positive difference here, and, but, I mean, all I hear about is, and actually, if you go to these Democrat Facebook pages for the state, I mean, it is pure propaganda. Yes. Oh, the Republicans are trying to close 5 hospitals. They want to take away all your health care and all that. It's like, that is not true. It's ridiculous, and so you're like, no. Look, people are just trying to be good stewards and do the right thing on behalf of their constituents. That's what they're doing. I mean, obviously, there's always going to be debates and conflicts, and we need to work through those. I mean, the art of politics is persuasion and compromise. You have to be able to be competent and be credible and put forth a good plan that people want to, sign up for. But I mean, you can't just run off and do whatever the hell you want and not fulfill the oath that you raised your right hand and swore to. Correct. Right. And take away people's constitutional rights and take away their money and leave them with nothing, and then give them to people that don't even deserve it or haven't earned it. I mean, it's amazing what this country has come to. And I think we're at a crossroads here right now where we can actually flip this state red and do some really, really good work for not only Colorado citizens, but the people of the nation, and show them that government actually can work properly if you get the right people in there.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head here is getting government to work properly, right? Like I said, I've worked in mostly DoD reforms for a long time. I've been trying to pass bills for years, right? And I can't get a
Mhm.
single Republican or even Democrat representative in this state to sign those bills. I have to go out of state and work with other officials to get DoD
Yeah.
reforms passed. And we have major military bases here, right? And it's just embarrassing, right? Like I interviewed some guy named Casey West. He's a Marine, depleted uranium poisoning, got stage 4 brain cancer, glioblastoma. Couldn't get his own representative to get a VA exemption letter for community care. Had to go to Eli Crane in Arizona to get him an exemption letter to get treatment in Texas when we have the largest VA facility in the West, right? Like
Mhm.
that's embarrassing, right? That's embarrassing, right? Even my own representative, right? He went out when I was in DC. I'm sitting in the White House executive office having a meeting with the American First Veterans guys out there, and he goes out and says, "Well, I think we should make exemptions and we should be able to bring in the illegals because I think he thinks catering to the illegal vote is going to bring him more votes than his conservative values." But like I said, I'm on the board of governors for the Colorado Hispanic Republicans as an Irish guy from the East Coast, and I will tell you that the Hispanic community, which is a very Catholic conservative community, they don't want this because it's hurting their actual family businesses, right? And another thing too, I'm a union guy now. Like we dropped 12 rigs in West Texas, so all the big fracking and drilling and stuff had gone away in Colorado under the Biden administration. So we had to go find safe jobs in the refining and downstream sector. And so I'm in a union now, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're in a union." I'm like, "Yeah, but here's the thing: unions for trades are good for the state because you want people that are incentivized to stay in that industry for 10, 15, 20 years. Like you don't want your power plants to be run by constant turnover guys every 2 weeks, right? You don't want that. But like the problem like you bring up with the federal workers and even some of the teachers unions that I've had to deal with is like, you're hurting the younger generation of America by indoctrinating with things that don't necessarily relate to math, science, and reading, right? You're indoctrinating them on social issues at 8 years old, right? And it's not a good way. And another thing is with the federal worker argument, like you said, look, you and I both worked for the federal government for a long period of time. You know that a lot of these people, I always use the SIF people as an example, the people that take my equipment in every day. Like, you're just wasting taxpayer dollars, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can do this efficiently, whether it's with AI or automation or everything else, but like, it is okay to reduce the size of government to benefit the American citizen and the
Mhm.
American taxpayer, right? Because Colorado's solution right now, at least on the local level, well, we're just going to keep dipping into the Tabor fund and take more money out of that to pay for more unnecessary crap because we need to give everybody jobs. Well, there's a difference between giving people jobs with purpose, whether that's infrastructure, teaching, the trades, all these other things that people need and want to do versus throwing money away at a useless job that is just taking money away from the taxpayer. And it sounds like you have a common sense approach to those issues. And it's such a breath of relief hearing somebody talk about, and that's because I give your experience as a marine logistics guy. Like it just, guys, we have to make the hard decisions, but these hard decisions benefit all. And I think everyone else, like at the end of the day, if I have to go get another job, I'll get another job, right? But we shouldn't just be paying you to do nothing, right? Because people fail to understand you have two choices in this life here in the United States. You could be a resident or you could be a citizen. You could be a resident, you could sit around and complain. You could, take your kids to soccer practice and bitch about how bad things are here, or you could be a citizen. And that's going to take time and effort away. You're going to have to go to these county commissioner meetings. You're going to have to show up to your mayor meetings. You're going to have to go see George speak at an event to see if he's worthy enough to win your vote. Because if you don't participate in your constitutional republic, then you have no right to complain when you lose those rights. And I think from the amount of time that you and I have spent overseas in these third world countries, right, where it's bad, man. Like it's
Oh,
really bad in these countries, right?
oh
And
yeah.
American citizens take their freedoms for granted. But if you don't participate in your constitutional republic, you have no right to complain about it. And I want to thank you so much for jumping into this race and having a voice of reason and common sense for the people of Colorado. Because, like I said, I barely hear it from the people I interview. There's I can count them on my hand, like 5 that can do it, but they're in it for themselves. They do it for self-enrichment. They're not doing it to benefit the American people. They're doing it to benefit themselves or further on their next career. But it sounds like at the end of the day, hey man, I could retire. I don't need this job. And the people who don't want to run for office like you are the people that need to run for office, right?
Yeah.
It's true. Like you
Well,
don't need this job. You don't need it at
no,
all.
no. It's about wanting to make a difference,
Yeah.
and when I think about like what my entire family stood for all those years. I mean, my grandfather was born in Philadelphia in 1917. Right, he survived the Great Depression, World War II. He was also serving in Korea,
Mhm.
and at the tail end of his career. And all the things that my dad did, so everything that I watched and heard about, and then not one day did they ever think about themselves. And that's the thing that, like, my own children, passing on, this type of these core beliefs, right? And to set the example and say, look, number one, what are you capable of? What can you do? Don't ever sell yourself short. You can make massive change in this world, massive positive change, if you just dream big enough. And then go out there, and it should never be about you. It's about serving. And so some of the words that I use, are, you don't hear, right? So leadership, integrity, moral courage, being able to stand up for these people out here that are counting on you. It's like, wait, somebody's going to do something like elect you into office. Then you just basically go do whatever the hell you want to do and abandon them. Like I see happen so often. It's unbelievable. And so,
you should fear your constituents, right, George? Like I see so many politicians. Like I'll give you an example of the guy you're basically trying to run against, right? So I was in the National Guard at the time, and we got sent out for the insurrection, which I find really funny because my great-great-grandfather was actually an officer in the Union Army, and he led the insurrection against D.C. when they didn't pay him his $1.80 a month for his VA benefits after the Civil War under General Grant. So they stormed the White House, and then they all got paid. So I just find it funny, lineage-wise, I got sent to the insurrection as the second time the National Guard was mobilized to protect D.C., so I thought that was really funny. So I'm walking around in Nancy Pelosi's office and hanging out and everything else, and then Senator Michael Bennet comes out and greets his 130 Colorado Guardsmen that he sent out there, right? And the guy is so disconnected from reality. He goes, hey, guys, I know it's freezing out here. It was like negative 20 degrees. We're all freezing. We're on night shift, walking around the streets of D.C. for like several weeks. And he goes, so I got you guys some pizza. This guy shows up with 2 pizzas for 130 people. 2 pizzas for 130 people. And I give it to my privates. I go, who are freezing and they haven't eaten anything but MREs in like 4 days because, they did not logistically plan that correctly. They flew in 50,000 National Guardsmen with no food, water, or shelter. It's whatever you were carrying in your ruck. But since I've been in for a minute, I know that they were going to screw this up. So I brought at least a couple days of supplies for me, right? But I mean, like, those are the people that called us in to save them because of the terrorism that didn't exist. The only thing I had to deal with was a guy in a rainbow Speedo and inline rollerblades listening to Mariah Carey's Fantasy album with an LGBTQ flag flying past a staffer down Pennsylvania Avenue. And I said, please, sir, can you move to the right side of the road? That was the extent of me saving America out there, right? But when, I can't make this up. But when you have senators who, don't fear their constituents, right? Mm-hmm. And you should, because it is about public service. It's about being servant leadership, which is what, General Mattis slammed in my head. Great guy. I've met him numerous times, right? Mm-hmm. And our politicians no longer care about their constituents. They only care about getting reelected. And for you, it's more or less of like, if you want me to stay in this position, you'll keep reelecting me. The money and the donations and the votes will come if I do my job correctly. And it sounds like you've been planning this out for decades without even knowing it. It sounds like you already have this laid out. You know exactly what you want to do. You know exactly what the people need. And it's something that is such a refreshing conversation because, like I said, I can't name many people who are as on the ball and as common sense as you that are really trying to draw on those unaffiliated voters that we need to participate here in the state of Colorado to save everything that matters to us, whether it's the oil and gas industry, the farming and the ranching, our textiles, our oil and gas industry, all those things. And it just seems like you already have a plan to get those things done, and you're not even in office yet.
Exactly. And when you talk about like planning, I mean, I started thinking about this probably when I was in battalion command, and I started leading like much larger formations. I started thinking about, okay, well, conceptually, leadership of groups is the same. All you do is just scale it based on the size of the organization and what its mission is, right? But like theoretically, everything that you do is the same. And so I remember, when I left battalion command and I went to the Naval War College in Rhode Island. And I remember we had the middle trimester. It was called National Security Decision Making. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there talking about and assessing, foreign policy decisions that were being made at that time by the Obama administration. A lot of us had wartime experience. We had seen the downstream effects of some of these things. Like for me in Afghanistan, when they said, okay, we're going to do a troop surge, but then we're going to advertise the date when we're going to withdraw. And, and I'm sitting, we're on the ground, like fighting the Taliban. It's like, well, these guys are just going to wait us out. Right. And then I go to CENTCOM and we're now negotiating with the Taliban because we got left with no other option other than that. Yep. And so, you start to see like, and I remember sitting in rooms, representing my boss at CENTCOM, and I've got the combatant commander at the head of the table, and you got Secretary of Defense and the chairman on the TV screen, and we're all talking about, okay, what are we going to do about Syria? What are we going to do about the Taliban? What are we going to do about, Shia militia groups in Iraq? And the list goes on and on. So I sat there and listened to all that. I was sitting there when they were planning strikes on Iran years ago that the president, then Trump, in the end actually called off. But it was like, okay, I saw how all of this works. How do you arrive at the decision to do something like this? And you mentioned going to foreign countries and really learning about
Changes your perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah, how bad life can be. Anytime I go up to Boulder and I see some Marxist socialist up there saying that they can't stand the United States, I'm like, well, go to West Africa or Latin America for a month.
I'll buy you a ticket myself and send you there and see how long you last.
Well, yeah, and see how you like it. I mean, like, do you really understand? I grew up in the Cold War. I was born in the early 70s. So, like the 80s were a very formative period for me. I sat there and watched the collapse of the Soviet Union. Communism was always a point of discussion whenever we talked about politics and war and things like that. And then, I joined the Marine Corps and kind of had this era of peace for a little while. And then we start the war on terror and Iraq and Afghanistan, everything like that. And so, you spend a lot of time thinking, studying, like trying to understand the decision calculus. Okay, why would we go to war? Why would we do these things? What do we stand to gain from it? The value of the object. We had to read Clausewitz 3 times. We had to read Sun Tzu. We had to read Thucydides. We had to study all this theory, and you bring this all together, right? And then you take your common sense and then your understanding of how basically society works and how economics works, and you just put it all together. And and it was interesting because as I started to get this additional education and started leading larger formations, once they grew into the thousands, I realized that I was kind of, operating in a political space. I was thinking through, long-term vision about, where do I want to take this organization and what do I want it to look like? And I was interacting with politicians to do that the entire way, governors, representatives, and senators. No matter what state I was in, they loved to come out and talk to Marines, right? So they would come out and talk to us, and I would be the representative, and I would say, okay, we need X, Y, and Z. And you would learn how to work with members of Congress, brief them, get the information they need so that good decisions are made on behalf of your service members. You get the resources and all that, the training, whatever you needed. And so, all that stuff, it always seemed kind of disaggregated for the longest time. And then eventually when I got into probably, 4 or 5 years ago, it all just came together. And I thought, I'm actually building the foundation for a run at a high political office. And then all I got to do is
you're not doing it intentionally.
Yeah. It was subconscious. And then, you go in and then just, okay, I have the tools, it was just slowly filtered in and aggregated over a period of 3 decades. And so, I kind of woke up, I'm ready to do this now. I think I'm ready to bring this all together. And again, only to serve, it's like there's no hidden agenda for me. Anything that I may need or want out of this, I've already pretty much gotten, I don't need anymore. All I want to do is work hard for the people because, even like that group I went and talked to yesterday, the amount of trust you could just sense it, like, hey, we're going to vote for you. We're going to put a lot of trust in you. And
it's a big responsibility.
It's huge. And I remember imparting that on my Marines over the years. I said, we're out here, we're working hard. We deploy for anywhere from 6 to 12 months. The deal. Yeah. And, and you're, every single day you're out there, you may be tired, in some cases exhausted. And you do it anyway. You may be confused. You may be, angry. I mean, you experience all these emotions, right? And you're trying to, stay focused on the mission. And I used to tell people, I said, look, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, but you need to understand that not only could you possibly let down the person to your right or left, but what about the American people, the people that don't even know who you are, sitting back home under this blanket of safety that know you're out here doing this hard job and are relying on you to get up every day and embrace the suck and work really hard for 18 to 20 hours, for a year straight. That's what you signed up for. And that's what they expect you to do. You cannot let the American people down. And I used to phrase it like that. I said, you're going to have a bad day. All right. You may even sometimes feel like you let yourself down,
Yeah.
And certainly your buddies will let you know if you let them down. They'll let you know. But the American people, you're disconnected from them. It's like, imagine sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to rely on this person, I'm going to trust them, and then they don't come through for me. That's horrible. I said that's unconscionable. I said, and I'm not going to let anybody here fail the American people. And that was always what drove me every morning when I woke up and attacked the day and vowed to be better than I was the day before. That's what drove me, was the American people, because the rest of the time I'm walking around and what are they saying to me? They used to see my haircut. They used to see the way I carried myself, and they would come up to me and say, thank you for your service. We really appreciate what you do. And I mean, that hit me right here. I'm sitting there going, wow. And go to a veterans event, go to a salute to service at a stadium or something the outpouring of support and emotion towards service members in this country. And then you're going to wake up and not do your job properly. You're going to let them down. No way. I was like, there's no way we're going to do that. And so
failure's not an option.
Yeah. I still feel that way. I still feel that way after all these years. And that's what drives me. And that's what's going to drive me as a senator. And I think, when you look at some of the other veterans that have been elected to office in Congress and the work that they do, you can just tell. I mean, a little bit more professional.
Big difference.
A little bit more professional, a little bit stronger leader, has a little bit different attitude, commands a little bit more respect. And, and that's what we want, because I've seen enough TikTok dance videos,
You don't do that? You don't do that to get the Gen Z vote? Come on.
People sitting on the steps singing. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but to me, when I think member of Congress, elected official, you should be the shining example of leadership and professionalism in this country. Everybody that looks at you should see this is a superior leader and an individual that I want to emulate, right? And when I don't see that, when I see people acting like, very unprofessionally in the chambers and that kind of thing, you're like, my God, what?
Jasmine Crockett, one of my favorites.
That's what I'm referring to, and others. But it's like this country deserves better than what you're giving them, right?
100%.
So I want to be that shining example. I want to be the one that people go, this guy has his collective stuff in one sack, and he's going to wake up every day and be disciplined. He's going to show integrity. He's going to have a work ethic, and he's going to do the things that we need him to do. Not that what he wants to do, what we need him to do. And that's the legacy that I would like to leave behind.
No, 100%. One, I got to let you know, you have the largest live stream of any episode I've done right now. There's people piling into the room. So if you guys are on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble, just like and subscribe. Share this right now, because we've spent the last 48 minutes and 40 seconds getting to know who George is and running for senator and his ethical backgrounds. But let's break it down simple for the American people. Like, we got to break it down for privates, right? Because this is what I have to do all the time. What are your top 5 priorities? You want to be senator. You want to come in here and change Colorado. What are the top 5 things you want to do for the state of Colorado and for the nation?
So number one, I want to make sure that we eliminate government waste, because that is directly tied to tax dollars, and that is directly tied to inflation. Second, inflation. I want to attack the major economic factors that are slowing down economic progress. Number 3, I want to unleash the energy potential of this state and actually of the nation too. I mean, I think that, we took a giant step back under the Biden administration from what President Trump was doing in that first term in terms of energy, and then the rest really it comes down to public safety. I watch a lot of these little videos on YouTube, not necessarily here in Denver, even though some of this does occur here, but like around the country, of people breaking the law and not being held accountable. We learned as Marines that number one, you can never delegate responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody does something, it's your fault, okay? Absolutely. And you have to take responsibility for that. And then I was told when I, became an officer and started leading a platoon of Marines, they said, you are responsible for all they do and fail to do. And that was internalized. And I thought, okay, number one, that's a very, very big cross to bear, but I'm willing to bear it, because somebody has to do that, right? Somebody has to step up.
Nobody else is doing it.
Be responsible. And then you got to hold everyone else accountable, right? You have to hold criminals accountable, because as well as I do, little things become big things. You let little things go, people go, oh, Well, if I can get away with that, let's see what else I can get away with. And pretty soon you have anarchy in the streets.
Yes.
And that's what some of these people on the Democrat side who embrace Marxist socialist policies are actually, whether it's willingly or unwillingly or unknowingly or fomenting what is anarchy. It's nihilism. It's chaos. It's like we don't want a society that looks like that. Nobody does, right? It's like, why, so you may think you're going to get votes out of this or whatever your deal is, but I will not stand for that, right? So enforcing the law, right? And then of course, the border security. I mean, this state is greatly affected by that. I think a lot of work has already been done. That's good. But now we got to hold the line because we saw that, President Trump in that second election got whisked away and they reversed his policies. And all of a sudden, I don't know how many millions of people flooded in here.
A lot.
But I mean,
a lot of terrorists in this country.
It created issues with fentanyl and drug trafficking, child trafficking, all kinds of other crime. And then you have not only downtown areas of Sanctuary City, we need to get rid of that. Definitely. I actually just put a post out yesterday for my campaign team about Louisville, Kentucky, which recently, rescinded their Sanctuary City policy. And it's like, okay, look, we're done playing these games because, people that, want to establish a household and live in a safe neighborhood. And you got criminals running through here, kicking down their gates and invading their homes and that kind of thing. I mean, or people that are smashing and grabbing in stores and doing all these other things, and no one's doing anything about it. I mean, like police officers are abandoning their responsibilities because some of them don't think it's worth it to actually step up and do anything more because they're going to get caught on a camera doing something that
wrapped up in it.
Yeah, they're going to get politically crucified, right? And so, I mean, all this stuff has built up over time as a result of this push by Democrats who embrace Marxism and socialism to overturn the social order, right? And there's no way that our republic can survive if people embrace these ideas. They'll always be there. There'll always be a tension among all of these different forces that are at work. But in the end, the rule of law must carry the day. And part of that is a secure border and to end all these downstream effects we're seeing in this state, which are literally collapsing societies, downtown areas, and all of that. So those are my top 5 priorities.
No, and I agree with you. And, especially like I live in District 8, which is very, very contentious with the illegal immigrant issue. But I'm at the point where it's like, guys, we have to draw a line in the sand because, well, they're dreamers and they've been here for 10, 15 years. I'm like, okay, so you've been here for 10, 15 years and you still haven't resolved your citizenship issue? You know what I mean? Like, that's a lack of personal accountability. That's not anyone's fault but your own, right? And I respect it. You want to be an American citizen. Like, I actually posted a Substack article the other day about Teddy Roosevelt's American hyphenism, right? And it's like, oh, I'm a Mexican American. I'm an Irish American. No, you're an American. There's no room for hyphenation, right? We welcome your culture. We welcome your heritage. We welcome you I want everybody to be an American, but I want you to do it the right way. And if you've been here for 10, 20 years and you're still not resolving this issue, like I said, you have a choice. You want to be a resident or you want to be a citizen? Because the people who don't take the initiative to put in the hard work to earn their citizenship, you're just taking advantage of the rest of the American people, right? And my resolve is this. It's like, okay, let's go immediately apply for your visa program, whether it's a seasonal worker or whatever it is. No issues with that. Let's go get it done. Second to that, if you really love this country and you want to get it done fast, I will bring you to the recruiting office myself and you can serve your country and earn your citizenship in 2 to 3 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that difficult? Yeah. Being an American is not supposed to come easy and for free, right? But if you don't, we're offering you $1,000 to deport yourself and then you don't ruin your chances of coming back and you can apply for asylum there. And I understand, look, I get it. Third world countries are horrible and things are going bad. But you want to know what? The American people cannot keep footing the bill for this stuff, and we can't just keep letting people get away with it. And if you like the Dignity Act, if we just give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, and it's not resolving the issue. And I know it's a hard decision, but we have to stand by as principled conservatives and as unaffiliated, and even some reasonable Democrats. There are very reasonable Democrats. I've talked to many of them. Right? Sure. Is that we have to resolve this issue because if we don't, we are going to bankrupt this state. We are going to bankrupt our country, and we are not going to be able to really address the bigger issues, which is we have near-peer adversaries like China and Russia and India and things that are going to be a big problem in the future, right? People are not thinking outside the box of what's going on. And you and I, who are very tied into the global security community, like these are things Americans are not thinking about at all. They're worried about free stuff and free things and everything else, but you're not understanding we can't even get those things if these people infiltrate. There's China. China owns farmland in the state of Colorado. Right? Nobody's talking about that because nobody's paying attention, right? So you have a great platform. I think that's a common sense, approach that most unaffiliateds are going to agree with, right? You're actually talking about solutions. You're not talking about creating more problems. You're not creating a divide. You're not pitting people against each other. You're offering a solution that just sounds like a common sense approach to bringing people together. Why should people vote for you to be a senator of the United States here in the state of Colorado?
Well, first of all, I'm not a career politician. The people that I talk to, I call people all over the country. I do fundraising all week long, every week. And they're like, hey, you served in the military and that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah. And they say, good, because, all the career politicians that we know have been corrupted by the system from the local level up to the national level. They don't trust them anymore. And that's a sad thing, because I think it really didn't start out that way. But I'm someone that literally just wants to serve and improve the conditions that we're operating under here. And also, the three things I mentioned before, right? So leadership, integrity, and moral courage. That's something that has been, a hallmark of my entire persona for my entire adult life. It was passed down from generation to generation. And I feel like when I think about the values and beliefs and everything that not only, this country was founded on, but the state of Colorado, the people, the pioneers, the people that came out here, 150, 200 years ago and settled out here, the miners, the ranchers, all these people, those hardworking folks that still exist here, right? I mean, they're still here.
The heartbeat of Colorado.
Oh my God. I mean, just incredibly resilient people, right?
And they're ignored.
Who just want to come out and work and have a great life. I mean, I think I resonate and identify with people like that, right? People that are just hardworking, salt of the earth. I didn't come from anything special other than a family that just wanted to serve its country and wanted to fight for what was true and what was right, and make those sacrifices for this country. To make sacrifices throughout your entire life. Like, even though I'm done serving in uniform, I'm still ready to make grave sacrifices for this country, because it's worth it. And the people
throw on a suit instead.
Yeah, it is absolutely 100% worth it. And the people deserve that. People deserved servant leaders that want to come in here and take care of them, just like we took care of those privates all those years ago, who looked at us and say, hey, look, you're my leader. I'm relying on you. Don't let me down. That never left, my persona and my thinking. And so that's it, and then my ability just to think through and problem solve. And I tell you what, I would love to work with common sense Democrats who just want to say, hey, look, here's the solution. Let's find a way to get it done. I mean, just like we did at every other level throughout our lives, the same thing applies here. And I would love to do that. And I'm the kind of person that understands how to collaborate with people and get things done. It's all about results. If you don't get results, then everything else is for naught. And so that's why I think people should vote for me. I think I'm the kind of person that they've been waiting for a very long time.
I 100% agree. I have no further questions. Sir, you should be a senator immediately tomorrow. Just replace Bennett now, or Hickenlooper, whichever one wants to step down. I don't care. They're both worthless. They don't even answer their phones anymore. Even when I'm physically in DC and knock on their door, there's that DeRito guy again. Get him out of the office, because I just caused them problems, right? Where can people go to support you? Where can people meet you? What's your schedule look like? What can people do to come meet and shake your hand and donate and support? Because this is going to cost a lot of money, people. I don't think you understand how expensive politics is, but Michael Bennett and Hickenlooper are bringing in the entire army of useless money from people who just want to maintain power, and we need to support this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right there. It will be a very expensive race. So first place you can go is my website, markertforsenate.com. I've got links on there to donate. That goes right into WinRed, which is what we use per Republican Party guidance and all that. And so we use WinRed, and then also. Right now, I'm scheduled to go back to the Jefferson County Republican meeting next week, but I'm on tap to go to a few other meetings around the state, talking to people here in Broomfield and other areas around Boulder. And then, as time wears on, I'll make it around the rest of the state. But right now, I'm focusing on the Front Range and some of the major issues that we're confronted with here. But the best place to go is that website. It's really easy to donate. Definitely appreciate everybody's contributions. The campaign, we're very active on social media, Facebook and Twitter, putting out messages every week. But really just, the main thing is, supporting our president and all the great things that he wants to do to improve this country and make it safe and secure and prosperous. And we're fully aligned with that. But then also, bringing those national level issues down to the state and local level, fusing it all together, creating that synergy, and making sure that everybody out here, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of how you grew up, what your background is, the way you think or whatever, you get the representation that you need. And so, please contribute early and often, and we'll make sure we pay you back on the back end.
That's awesome. I fully endorse this candidate, even though my endorsement means nothing. I'm just I'm the Sith Lord of the GOP here, trying to get real candidates to run to represent their people. I've been trying to motivate GWAT guys to run for a long time. It's our time to take over. Like I said, these people
more
sent
veterans.
us to.
We need more veterans in Congress.
These people sent us to war for 20 years, and they're promising me that if we just elect them one more time, that they're going to keep doing all the wrong things. And I think it's time for change. And by, with, and through, I think we can make that happen, George. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and hang out for a minute after we close the show out. So make sure you guys go to marketforsenate.com. Make sure you donate. Make sure you find an event. Go out and meet this man. He obviously is a servant leader that Colorado needs. And together, we can make a difference and save this country.
Thanks, Adam.
That was awesome, dude. You're